If you want to like turn, sorry, the cords are annoying, but if you want to turn it around.
The best part is also.
Can we get the seat before I forget? Are you Bella? Are you good enough to know? Okay. Oh, is that a meme though? There are memes. I didn't come up with this. We made these last year. Where he said, it's like, hey girl, and then he'll say a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah, I think I saw it in your wrist.
Yeah.
Did you have them like somewhere?
I didn't.
So did you have it made?
Yeah, last year like 4 English teachers made these because we had meme day that year. So that's fun. Otherwise, I had no clue. Okay, that was probably more than a minute. Please shut your Chromebook. And please be great, attentive listeners. For Mr. Freeman, active participants. I'm gonna sit by you guys. Is that okay? Yeah, he is here, isn't he?
Oh yeah, excellent. All right then. So, today we're going to be talking about something that's due at the end of class tomorrow, and that's going to be your outlines for your speeches. So, just to kind of get us rolling here, what are some benefits of outlining? Why would you actually want to make one of these?
It helps you, like when you're ready to write your paper, it's easier to just go because you already have it planned out instead of like thinking of it on the spot.
Exactly. Yeah, outlines essentially just work the same way as a map does for your speech. So like if you're going somewhere for the first time, you want to map that out first because otherwise you're going to get lost along the way. You'll end up taking a bunch of stops where you don't mean to. And this is the same principle. Lets you know exactly where you're going before you get started speaking. So we're going to watch a quick little video here, just a little part of it. And pay attention to kind of like the techniques he's using as far as an introduction goes.
Way down earlier.
Oh, just down there.
Yeah.
I got 7 shorts.
Oh, yeah.
Or however much. Sorry.
One of the things that's contributed to Homo sapiens' success as a species is our lack of body hair. That our hairlessness, our nakedness, combined with our invention of clothing, gives us the ability to modulate our body temperature and thus be able to survive in any climate we choose. And now we've evolved to the point where we can't survive without clothing, and it's more than just utility. Now it's a communication. Everything that we choose to put on is a narrative, a story about where we've been, what we're doing, who we want to be. I was a lonely kid. I didn't have an easy time finding friends to play with, and I ended up making a lot of my own play. I made a lot of my own toys, and it began with ice cream. There was a Baskin-Robbins in my hometown, and they served ice cream from behind the counter in these giant 5-gallon cardboard tubs. And someone told me, I was 8 years old, someone told me that when they were done with those tubs, they'd wash them out and then kept them in the back, and if you asked, they would give you one. It took me a couple of weeks to work up the courage, but I did. And they did. They gave me one. I went home with this beautiful cardboard tub. And I was trying to figure out what I could do with this exotic material, metal ring, top and bottom, and I started turning it over in my head. And I realized, wait a minute, my head actually fits inside this thing. I cut a hole out, I put some acetate in there, and I made myself a space helmet. I needed a place to wear the space helmet, so I found a refrigerator box a couple blocks from home. I pushed it home, and in my parents' guest room closet, I turned it into a spaceship. I started with a control panel out of cardboard. I cut a hole for a radar screen and put a flashlight underneath it to light it. I put a view screen up, which I offset off the back wall, and this is where I thought I was being really clever. Without permission, I painted the back wall of the closet black and put a star field, which I lit up with some Christmas lights I found in the attic. And I went on some space missions. Okay.
All right, so just looking at that short little clip there, what are a few attention-getting techniques that he's using to kind of pull the audience in? Yes, Meg.
Like a personal story.
Yep, personal anecdotes. Very good ones. Kind of builds a rapport between you and the audience you're communicating to. Very good. There's another one. Think about the very first thing he said. All right, let's watch it again. Just pay attention to the very first thing that he says here.
There's this fact that I love that I read somewhere once that one of the
Yep.
things that's contributed to Homo sapiens' success as a species is our lack of body hair.
So right, Sammy, you want to say that again?
A fact.
Yeah, there we go. So, like, an interesting fact is another really common and effective attention getter. Another thing he's doing that's not so much structured but is important is he's using humor there. Humor is a good way to kind of draw people's attention as well. Now, it's important to note that this is a speech about costuming and cosplay. So, when he's doing his attention getters, both of those are very much related to the subject of his speech. You don't want to give something that's just like interesting, but has nothing to do with what you're saying, right? So that kind of covers attention getters in your introduction. If we go to things like overview and terms, this is something that shows up very often in your introduction as well. He does this a bit later in his speech, but I'll give you an example.
Walking the floor, but also with the community of other costumers. It's not called costuming at cons, it's called cosplay. Now, essentially, cosplay means people who dress up as their favorite characters from film and television, and especially anime, but it is so much more.
All right, so here he's very explicitly giving his audience a definition of a term that he thinks they might be unfamiliar with. So a lot of people understand costuming. He knows that people might not know what cosplay is specifically, so he takes the time to go ahead and define that. However, as you'll know, outlining your terms, giving background information often comes in the introduction. So why do you think it might be important to give a term definition at the beginning of the speech as well? What kind of terms would you want your audience to be familiar with? Okay.
Maybe the one that you're going to use like repetitively, so you don't have to keep explaining it.
Perfect. Exactly. Anything that shows up in your speech over and over again that your audience just needs to know in order to understand what you're saying has to be defined in the introduction. He's able to get away with defining this later because he doesn't mention cosplay till near the end of his speech. Anything that you're going to talk to throughout needs to be defined in your intro. Now, in your introductions, you should also have these two last things here. I imagine that most of you have probably written a thesis statement at this point. Very much the same thing as in a paper. It's your quick little blurb on what the speech means in a sentence, essentially. And then you also need to give relevance. Now, relevance is essentially telling your audience, this is why I can talk about this, and it's also giving them some aspect like why this is relevant to them, so that now that you have their attention from your attention getters, you get to keep it through the rest of your speech because they've got a reason to give it to you. So, after you've done your introduction, you're going to want to move on to your body points. Now, we're going to use a very simple analogy here. I've made up a fake speech about a grilled cheese. So in this case, our thesis is that grilled cheese is a staple of American cuisine because cheese and toast are amazing. Now, when you're looking at your body points, the purpose of them is to support your thesis. You want, so for example, I've got my first body point, cheese is amazing. This is directly supporting my first contention that cheese is amazing in my thesis. And then, to support our body points, we want to break that down even further into subpoints. And these essentially work the same way for your body points as your body points do for your thesis. Subpoints support the body supports the thesis. And one quick note is that whenever you have a subpoint, you have to have at least 2 of them. And the way to think about that is if your body point is a grilled cheese, you can only cut it into more than one piece of a grilled cheese sandwich. Otherwise, you're just making a smaller grilled cheese, and that's not good. You want as much as you can get. Now, let's just take a minute, pause, and I want you to read this. What seems off about it? What was that?
It seems out of order.
Okay, yep, out of order, kind of weird, almost sounds like a caveman. I went to store yesterday, I drove home, fridge was empty. So, there's a specific thing that it's missing though. What is that? Any thoughts?
Well, it has like a lot of like similar syntax and you want to vary it, like the sentence structure and all kind of similar.
That is important.
There's no
Yes.
transition from looking for it.
Bingo! We have no transitions. So this is those same sentences, only we've included the transitions in there. So now it is, I went to the store yesterday. After I was done shopping, I drove home. Before going to the store, my fridge was empty. But now my fridge is full. Now, sure, this isn't the most exciting stuff out there, but at least we can understand it now. And that's the important thing of transitions. It takes things that may not be inherently related and connects them so that people can follow you. If we want to keep going with our grilled cheese analogy, let's assume we just finished my body point about talking about how cheese is amazing. And I'm going to transition to my second point that toast is amazing. Cheese may be incredible all on its own, but you cannot have a grilled cheese sandwich without the greatness that bread brings to the table. This works as a transition because I'm taking the 2 things that I'm going to be talking about. I just got done talking about cheese, I need to talk about toast. This combines the idea of cheese and naturally leads it into a discussion about the toast because we've, in our transition, explained how they're related. And that's what you're going to want to do with your transitions for your body points. You want to make sure that we're flowing naturally between them. And then when you finish with your body points, that brings us to our conclusion. So we're going to quickly play the end of this here. And I want you to think about why is it better that he does it the way he does, as opposed to just saying, I like costumes, they are fun, thank you for listening.
Laugh that Chewbacca does. And then I dressed up as No-Face from Spirited Away. If you don't know about Spirited Away and its director Hayao Miyazaki, first of all, you're welcome. This is a masterpiece and one of my all-time favorite films. It's about a young girl named Chihiro who gets lost in the spirit world in an abandoned Japanese theme park. And she finds her way back out again with the help of a couple of friends. She makes a captured dragon named Haku and a lonely demon named No-Face. No-Face is lonely and he wants to make friends. He thinks that the way to do it is by luring them to him and producing gold in his hand. But this doesn't go very well, and so he ends up going on a kind of a rampage until Chihiro saves him, rescues him. So I put together a no-face costume. And I wore it on the floor at Comic-Con. And I very carefully practiced No-Face's gestures. I realized I resolved I would not speak in this costume at all. When people asked to take my picture, I would nod, and I would shyly stand next to them, and they would take the picture. And then I would secret out from behind my robe a chocolate gold coin, and at the end of the photo process, I'd make it appear for them. Like that. And people were freaking out. Holy crap, gold for No-Face. Oh my God, this is so cool. And I'm feeling it. I'm walking the floor. It's fantastic. And about 15 minutes in, something happens. Somebody grabs my hand and they put a coin back into it. And I think maybe they're giving me a coin as a return gift. But no, this is one of the coins that I've given away. I don't know why. And I keep on going. I take some more pictures. And then it happens again. Now understand, I can't see anything inside this costume. I can see through the mouth. I can see people's shoes. I can hear what they're saying, and I can see their feet. But the third time someone gives me back a coin, I want to know what's going on. So I sort of tilt my head back to get a better view. And what I see is someone walking away from me going like this. And then it hits me. It's bad luck to take gold from No-Face. In the film Spirited Away, bad luck befalls those who take gold from No-Face. This isn't a performer-audience relationship. This is cosplay. We are, all of us on that floor, injecting ourselves into a narrative that meant something to us, and we're making it our own. We're connecting with something important inside of us. And the costumes are how we reveal ourselves to each other. Thank you.
All right. So, what's the effectiveness of ending it like that? What does he do?
Gives them something to think about.
Right. Something to think about. More specifically, he's leaving them with a reason. A reason why what he just said matters to them. His speech is about cosplay, but he's giving us a so what here. I really like cosplay. The audience thinks to themselves, so what? He tells them, because this is a form of connecting with people. This is not just a hobby. This has implications for how we interact with each other. It's relevant. The so what is going to be an important part of your conclusions. This is giving your audience a reason to feel like they didn't just waste their time listening to you for the past 3 or 5 minutes. This is making them think it matters. And the nice thing about so what's, like you could see in his, is a really strong one lends itself to being your clincher statement. Very, very often you're going to want to tie these two things together. That's the way you get maximum effect, because if your ending, your final sentence, your clincher, is the same as you giving them a reason to believe in what you said, to apply what you said to their lives, that's going to impact people far more than just saying, well, now I'm done. So just to kind of recap here, your outline is, like we said at the beginning, going to be mapping out your speech, and it allows you to think about what you're going to say before you turn it in, and it helps you kind of brainstorm the ideas and be conscious of the purpose of all the things you're writing down while you're putting it into that outline. Now, another great thing about outlines, especially when you're up giving your speeches, is that they lend themselves very much to note cards. So when you see this here, introduction, an introduction could be like an introduction note card by the time you get done with it. It's giving you little signs saying like, this is what you're going to say now, this is what you'll say after. It kind of serves like an To go along with that, when you're putting all of your information into your outline, you don't want to put full quotes, and you don't want to put full paragraphs or sentences or anything like that. The outline, like we said, is a map, and if you're following your GPS and you're coming up to a turn, you're not going to hear your GPS say, all right, it is time for you to lightly apply the brake, slow down to 10 miles an hour, merge into the right lane, stop at the stop sign and take a right turn. It's just going to tell you to take a right turn. Same principle applies here. You don't want something that's going to just map out every little thing that you're going to say and do. You want something that's going to remind you what's going there and remind you what to say at this point. And just a quick reminder, these need to be double spaced. Don't single space them. Makes it messy, harder to read. With that done, you guys actually get some work time now.
What?
Yeah. I know, it's shocking.
Work time, what is it?
Yeah, so if you guys want to go ahead and bring your Chromebooks back out, everything like that, you've got some time to get a head start on this.
And it's class tomorrow.
Yep, and class tomorrow, that's right.
Like this on the front, right?
Come on, work.
Okay,
How many what?
read my mind.
Four. Yeah, these are do they have to all be scholarly or just one be scholarly?
They don't all have to be. It kind of depends on your topic, because like, some